Good morning, everyone. During the Black Lives Matter rally in Toronto at Nathan Phillips Square, a guy showed up dressed as Justin Trudeau in blackface. And when the police rolled up to him, in the context now, it's kind of funny, but then I didn't even put it together. They assaulted him, right? The officer coming up rode his bike into the guy's elbow, like enough that he had to move it, and he was like, what the heck? And in context, right? Like, why does he have to be inflammatory like that? And I said, it's not illegal to paint your face. It's not illegal to paint your face and go out in public. Halloween is a thing in Canada, right? We do that. And this is not illegal. You can't arrest somebody for doing this. But they arrested him, and they charged him with, hold on. He's scheduled to appear in court on July 16th. He's been charged with causing a disturbance, and he was arrested for breaching the peace. So they've doubled down on as many charges as they could throw at him, because it's not illegal to dress in blackface, and it's not illegal to attend Nathan Phillips Square protest, even in the midst of a pandemic. I think that it's notable that this is speech, right? This is a form of speech. He's able to protest, right? And he went there purposely to protest whatever he wanted to protest, but that is not okay, right? But these other people were allowed to do that, right? And what would happen if you defunded the police, right? What would happen if you removed the salaries from the police and let the mob rip this guy apart? Right? Is that what people want? Like, let's just let the mob rip this guy apart. Now, one way or the other, I think this is probably ill-advised. I don't think that this is a good idea. But at the same time, it was his right. It's his right to do that if he wants to do that. And I think that it is, I've been talking about a slippery slope, and it's, I don't know, making up charges like this is disturbing the peace when protesting against police is not disturbing the peace. It's just really... How do you make sense of this, right? This is not okay. This is okay. All right, sure. This is the same kind of thing. A few days ago, the WHO said asymptomatic spread of COVID-19 very rarely happens. And then the next day they're like, oh, wait, we meant 16%. So nobody really knows what works, what doesn't, what's happening with this. It's really, they've lost the public on this. And they've closed the border, though. And at the beginning, Dr. Tam said, and Ms. Haydu said, that these are the Minister of Health and the public health heads, they said, closing the virus goes anywhere it wants to in the world. Borders don't matter. Borders don't work. And then a week later, they closed the U.S. border, and it's been closed, and it's still closed. And here's Katie Simpson reporting. Multiple sources with direct knowledge of the situation say the restrictions along the Canada-U.S. border will be extended. Matching reports first done by Reuters. Ink not to paper yet, but all sides happy with agreement to be extended beyond current expiry date. I'm sure. And that's scary. Moving to Tabbara and his big deal. I'm going to show you a couple of arrests. And we just saw this arrest. We saw video of this arrest as it happened. The Toronto police put out a statement right away saying he was being arrested for breaching the peace. Okay? And that's not really all that notable. What's notable is Guelph police didn't say anything, nothing about this arrest. Why? And I'm going to show you some other arrests where things are published the same day. Right? So why are the police covering up for this guy? Why did the police not even, why is there no mechanism for if an MP gets arrested to inform the House of Commons, inform the Canadian public? Shouldn't there be a duty to report that? Isn't that an important thing? And Mr. Troll, MK is really trying to get my attention. He's finding comments that I've commented on and then reposting his comment. It's weird. It's a strange thing to do, MK. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But he was saying that, what do I think about the PPC running Renato Ford? Fine. If somebody gets arrested and is charged and does what they need to do in the eyes of the law and they've served their time, then the public gets to make up their mind. That's up to the public, right? Whatever. It doesn't matter to me. But if you commit an offense while you're a sitting MP, that's different. Right? That's fundamentally different. And so there you go. I think there's a big difference between the two things. So when an MP, a member of parliament elected by the peers, presumably because the peers want him to represent them, shouldn't they be informed if he's arrested? Right? Especially if he's arrested doing the things that he was arrested doing. Here's the posted June 9th. Today's the 10th. Trudeau says he learned about MP Marwan Tabbara's months-old arrest on Friday. Now, the other part I wanted to make a point about on this is, if that's true, if Trudeau didn't know about this until Friday, that speaks to Mr. Tabbara's character, but it also speaks to the ability of leadership in the Trudeau hierarchy. Like, if he's got no ability to keep an eye on his MPs and what they're doing, how much, like, this guy was sitting outside of a house enough to make somebody fear for their safety, while presumably, continuing meetings and stuff. But, like, that's going to take a chunk of time, right? Like, you would think somebody would have said something prior to Friday when the media reported this. If the Prime Minister is just finding this out about a cabinet, about this guy who is the chair of, we'll find out. I can't remember exactly the what he chaired, but I talked about it yesterday. It's anyway, it doesn't matter. Here we go. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said today that he and his office only learned about criminal charges against Kitchener area MP Marwan Tabbara on Friday. Quote, "No one in my party or my organization knew anything about them until Friday," Trudeau said. "And when we found out about these serious charges, the correct steps were taken for Mr. Tabbara to remove himself from the Liberal Party of Canada caucus." So he's no longer a Liberal, he's an independent. Trudeau essentially delivered the same answer when pressed by Conservative leader Andrew Scheer in question period today to say whether he knew anything at all about the matter before that date. Guelph Police Services said it would not comment on a matter that is before the courts. So when did it become before the courts, right? Like, when did this become verboten to speak about? Tabbara was charged with 2 counts of assault, 1 count of break and enter and commit an indictable offense, and 1 count of criminal harass. So Tabbara chaired the Commons Subcommittee on the International Human Rights. So here, Bill Blair's asked about the same thing, and he says, as minister responsible for the country's national police force should have known about the arrest earlier. He said Tabbara had an obligation to tell his leader and his party that he was facing such serious allegations. This seems like a pretty easy scapegoat, right? Let's scapegoat the guy who was arrested. So, and it's politics, right? They lost a seat, but he's sitting independent. And who else is he going to vote with? The NDP? Okay. Here's Niagara Police Services on April 2nd, and they're reporting on April 2nd at approximately 10 a.m. One District St. Catharines uniform officer from the Niagara Regional Police Services attended the area of James Street and St. Paul Street in the city of St. Catharines for a report of an assault. The victim, a 61-year-old male, suffered serious injury after being struck with a weapon. He was treated and transported by paramedics from Niagara Emergency Medical Services to a hospital for treatment. As a result of the investigation by uniformed officers and detectives, an arrest has been made. Seth Wolk, 20 years old, of St. Catharines, has been arrested and charged with the alleged Criminal Code of Canada offense of aggravated assault. Wolk was held in custody and will attend a video bail hearing at whatever courthouse in St. Catharines. So he didn't get to choose his courthouse, or if he did, he chose St. Catharines. I asked how it was possible, and somebody said they could choose another courthouse if they thought they would be biased against or something to that effect. And I was asking yesterday how he would do that, and I asked in the comments as well, like, how would you do that? Like, what would the process be? Like, would you say to the officer, give me the process to request my bail hearing in another jurisdiction? Would you get to select the jurisdiction in that case? I have no idea. And yesterday I didn't pretend that I did. I was just saying that it was odd that he got to make a selection. Here's another one. So in this arrest, it was published the same day that the arrest was made. It gives the name of a person arrested, not convicted, just arrested, and it tells of the date of the courthouse, of the court hearing, and the location of the courthouse. Here's one that doesn't give that much information, but still tells you something, right? Like, and neither of these were done by the Guelph Police. Why? City News is reporting, and this is June 10th, 2020. The last one, also in 2020, April 2nd. This is actually 8 days before Marwan was arrested, or 7 days, right? 8 days, 7 days. He was arrested on the 9th and then charged on the 10th. Right? Makes you go. Okay. No apparent opposition support for Fed's latest Oh, okay. This is moving on. Sorry. I thought I had 2. Hold on a second. Let me check. Okay. Here's one from April 27th. I did have 2. I just didn't move it over. Sorry. Historic domestic assault situation leads to arrest in Peterborough. A 22-year-old Durham region man has been arrested and charged with 5 counts of domestic assault and mischief and 2 counts of assault with weapon following an investigation. This was on April 5th or 25th, and this was published on the 27th. So 2 days later, and in this situation, in order to protect the identity of the victim in this domestic incident, the name of the accused will not be released. So, okay, like, we could have had a news article that said all of this, but didn't say it was Marwan Tabbara. Why didn't we? Right? Like, if they were worried about exposing sensitive information, why wouldn't they put something like this out? I mean, it's toothless and doesn't tell anybody really anything, but you'd think they'd put something out, right? Here's something I was talking about yesterday. Yesterday I said, well, these changes are too little, too late. Like you don't want fraud on curb and blah 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 blah. All of these changes are pretty kind of basic and make sense. Jail time if you are fraudulent with it, and I mean not necessarily jail time. Can you imagine if you go to jail for being fraudulent with curb, but the people who were like money laundering or white collar criminals who were let out for COVID-19 are still out? Like, sure, why not? They're not going to jail people for this because there's no apparent opposition support for Fed's latest pandemic emergency bill. Right? Shocking. We're giving free money and nobody wants to stop that. Here we go. The nonpartisan spirit that has allowed Parliament to swiftly pass emergency legislation during the COVID-19 pandemic seems likely to come to an abrupt end today. And that could leave in limbo a number of promised measures, including benefits for disabled Canadians and expansion of the wage subsidy program to include seasonal workers and some additional businesses. So what happens is Trudeau makes promises through the week, and then on Wednesday they approve the package, the spending bill, because they have unanimous consent. And now they don't have unanimous consent, so all those promises, not happening. Okay, back to this. The Trudeau government's latest bill, which would also impose penalties for fraudulently claiming the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit CERB, or CERB, still not sure, appears to have no support among the main opposition parties. Without unanimous consent, the government will not be able to pass the bill this afternoon, just after a few hours of debate, as it has done with 4 previous pandemic-related bills. The NDP is balking at the prospect of Canadians who fraudulently claim $2,000 a month CERB being fined or sent to jail, despite Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's assurances that the punishment is aimed at those who deliberately defraud the government, not those who make honest mistakes. The Conservatives are holding out for a full resumption of House of Commons business. Oh, well, you know what? I like this play actually by the Conservatives. If they're not willing to do this, this puts pressure on them. And if the NDP aren't willing to play ball, this could, well, I don't know, because it's not a confidence vote. So this could make the Liberals come back, but only if there's pressure from the public. Only if there's pressure from the public. And I don't know. I don't know if there will be. This is going to be interesting. Pierre Polievre says, Finance Committee unanimously supports my motion to give the Auditor General boosted funds to scrutinize government spending. I mean, okay, the Auditor General over the last few days and Pierre Polievre, they've been making hay and videos about the interview they did recently on, I think it was the 29th, the committee sat. And that was last week, or a week and a half ago. And they've been talking about how about half of the infrastructure receipts essentially are missing, and how to hold people accountable when there aren't, on paper, half of the money is missing, right? Half of the projects are missing or the money's gone, one or the other. And Mr. Giroux was saying that the auditor doesn't have enough money to run the necessary audits to hold the government accountable. So this is in response to all of that. Do I think it's going to get anything done? I just don't know, because in the timeline of this, if there's a confidence vote and the government falls, then we're into an election cycle, and then all of this has to start back up again after all that happens. Now, I don't think any of that's going to happen. So if this process runs properly, maybe we see some accountability, maybe we see some numbers, maybe we finally understand how much we're spending in Canada versus the billions we've sent to WHO and other NGOs and other things around the world to help with this crisis, right? I don't know, because we've got lots of money, or we can borrow lots of money anyway. But I don't know how this is going to play out, right? I feel like even if we get to committee part, even if there's no election and everybody agrees that we should spend the money and the audits should be done, even if we get to that part, I don't see this government meaningfully changing how they've done things for the past 5 years. I don't see them really doing anything. I see them just dragging their feet until another divisive election campaign. And, well, maybe I'm catastrophizing. I'm possibly catastrophizing. Good job, Mr. Polievre. I'm glad we're holding them accountable. It is just hard to see a light. It seems like a long, dark tunnel. Okay, moving on. The House of Commons staffer is kind of a tongue-in-cheek account I follow. I think he's funny, or she's funny, and makes a good point every now and then. Here they are talking about, Sean Murphy is saying there are 2 independent MPs in the House of Commons, one kicked out of the Liberal caucus for standing up to Trudeau's attempts to interfere with the courts, the other stepping back from caucus after PMO sat on allegations of assault and harassment for almost 2 months. I mean, it's like an odd couple. I mean, maybe they could share an office. We could have a YouTube show, the Canadian Odd Couple. And be a bouncy, intro tude and... Here's HOC's staffer, and he says, and whenever Parliament ever resumes, if it ever resumes, Independent's Jody's seat will be beside Marwan in the back corner. Hey, isn't that wonderful? She's a lawyer. Maybe she could give you advice, Marwan. Hey, Jody, I've got a court appearance next week. Could you look at this for me? It's not a good time. Okay, sorry. This ticked me off. So after the protests, after the hundreds of people downtown Guelph, I'll show you the Carden Street. Hold on. After this happened on the weekend, downtown Guelph, who gets punished? You park goers. You park goers. How dare you not go to the protests? How dare you? Guelph Mercury is reporting. Due to visitors not following the rules, the Grand River Conservation Authority has closed a number of Guelph area conservation areas until June 15th. That's a Monday. I was at Rockwood Conservation Area on Sunday. There weren't too many people. There wasn't a staff on. There wasn't a posting of the rules. There wasn't a posting of, please only have 200 people in the park at any one time. There wasn't anybody keeping track of how many people were there. And from the people that I saw, everybody was socially distanced. Everybody was keeping lots of space between their groups. People were walking wide berths around us, and we were trying to do the same. And there were a lot of people there, but it certainly wasn't packed like this. Like, it certainly wasn't packed shoulder to shoulder. And people will point here, but have a look here, and have a look over here, and have a look over here. That's not socially distanced. If it all looked like that, spotty, I would say, man, like, good job, seriously. But it doesn't look spotty like that. It looks really, really packed. It looks really, really packed. So the idea, and I have photos, but I'm not going to go through my photos from the conservation area. I thought I should start taking photos of the crowds, but then I thought there might be privacy issues, so I didn't want to deal with that. But it was nowhere near this, and I think it is offensive for the Grand River to close down like this. I want to understand what mechanism they're using. Are they using the emergency orders? Are they using other powers that they have? Can they just arbitrarily close down? Or are they saying this is because of COVID-19 and you awful Guelph people who weren't obeying the rules? Despite the fact that it's a driving distance from like Mississauga, Milton, a whole bunch of places, and a lot of people go there usually anyway. Frustrating. I'm frustrated by this. I want to know what mechanisms. I want to know why they're able to close it until June 15th. And I don't know. And I sent them an email and I asked them those questions, but I haven't heard back from them. And I don't really expect to. And if I do, it'll probably be on the 14th or something like that, telling me that, anyway, it doesn't matter. But I think that it's tone deaf to have, and I understand that the Grand River Conservation people are not in charge of the protest. I understand that the protest people are saying it's our right. The tone deaf part here is the fact that the city de facto endorsed this by saying, come down to protest and socially distance and blah, 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 blah. There either is a healthcare emergency, in which case the city should not be endorsing situations like this, or there isn't. You can't have it both ways. This is hypocritical. And having the Grand River Authority threaten to close things down and then close things down stinks. I'd love to understand why they can close things down. Casey Madu, and Casey he was going to speak at the Black Lives Matter until they realized that he wasn't going to say what they wanted him to say. He's an MLA for Edmonton Southwest and Minister of Municipal Affairs, and he happens to be black.
Hello.
And this is his speech from that he was, well, not that he was going to say. He talks about the fact that he was uninvited, and he blames squarely the NDP. It's 1 minute and 30 seconds, and I'm long already. I'm going to find the most important part and show it to you. Hold on. Honestly, the whole thing is gold. I wish I had more time. Go watch the whole thing. It's so worth it. But this is the best part. Here we go.
With racism. Racism is real, and we all must work together to fight it. The scourge of racism is bigger than our politics, and it's also bigger than our political parties. Let's stop the divisive NDP and left-wing politics and vow to destroy racism together.
Right? Not where you expected it to go. He says racism is real, and NDP, your divisive politics, your BS is to blame. And let's join up and stop this leftist divisive politics that is taking over our country. I think that's a good place to stop. So thank you, Mr. Madu, and check out the whole thing. Watch the whole video. It's very worth it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaReport.co. Check out SpeakingMoistly.co. And have a wonderful, wonderful day.